What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome back to MKO Boxing, aka MKO Pugilism, where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on TikTok, all that good stuff. So let's get into this one. So obviously, we're fast approaching fight week for Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, the rematch. And after the last fight that they had, after the initial fight, I was in the camp of people thinking that, right, that's great. That was, a very exciting fight. That was an impeccable fight that I really enjoyed. And I really don't need to see it again. It was one of them where I thought all the drama that happened, obviously Chris Eubank Sr. emerging from the Rolls Royce, and just sitting there posing with it and turning up for his son, being against the fight, and then in the end turning up at the fight with that surprise performance, almost like WWE. And then you had the shot of Nigel Benn and Conor Benn watching the screen as Chris Eubank Jr. emerges and Senior emerges from the car, and all that drama, all that nostalgia, all that appeal. For me, it was one of them where, I thought the fact that we got a clear result, we got a clear winner in Chris Eubank Jr. I just thought to myself, there are too many, there are several weight divisions, at least two or so, 2, 3 weight divisions apart. So we've had it, we've seen it, that's enough. But here we go again. It's happening again. And yeah, so far what have we had? We've had a few press conferences, and Chris Eubank Jr. has been really, creating, really pushing his narrative. He's put out footage this week, and apparently this footage, I can't really confirm or deny it, but it's from what I've seen. He's put it out, and it look, he's saying, look, I was in that ambulance for over 20 minutes. I was delayed. It was Eddie Hearn's fault, etc., etc. In the press conference, Eddie Hearn was saying, yeah, go on, say it, so I can sue you, sort of thing. So Chris Eubank Jr. is winding up Team Benn again, and trying to, score some mental points. He's been playing his mind games, but I don't know. He did, by the looks of it, obviously I can't know 100%, but yeah, I think it's possible. The ambulance was delayed in all the melee and all the chaos. The British Boxing Board of Control, they've come on to talk sport. They've said, Robert Smith, he said his piece. He was a bit cagey. Jim White was saying to him, why are you hiding behind certain words? Just come out and say it. Was it your fault? Was it his fault? Just speak your mind, speak your piece. But Robert Smith was good. He was quite cagey. He just said, no, we can't really disclose certain things. So yeah, there's been a lot going on. They had the face off, on the zone, and yeah, that was okay. Wasn't nothing too exciting or too crazy. It was a classic case of Chris Eubank Jr. kind of trolling Conor Benn, and Conor Benn trying to prove that he's a changed man in the face off, talking about, yeah, you know what? Look at him. Chris is trying it again. Get it off your chest, Chris. Get it off your chest, Chris. Yeah, I bought that £500,000 motor. I bought my Rolls Royce, and I said, thank you, Chris, blah, blah, blah. So he was trying his best to sort of wind Chris Eubank Jr. up, but then the opposite ended up happening, because it was like everything Chris Eubank Jr. would say would be sort of thrown back in his face, as Conor Benn sort of said, oh yeah, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working. And it was like everyone but him could see that the fact that you keep repeating it's not working means it is working. If it wasn't working, you just chill and be cool. But yeah, it was a funny little face-off thing where Chris Eubank Jr. was kind of controlling the narrative, controlling the conversation, and Conor Benn was just sort of snapping and biting on everything. It was a little bit calmer than he normally is. He wasn't as crazy as he was the last time, but you could tell that he was biting on the feints, like you bite on a feint in boxing. He was just biting and reacting to everything Chris Eubank Jr. said. Maybe not as over the top as the past, but the fact he was reacting was just, yeah, you could see who was on top mentally. And Chris Eubank Jr. went and mentioned his drug cheating, and Conor Benn goes, yeah, it's not working, mate, it's not working, I'm cleared, I'm cleared, I'm cleared, I'm cleared, I'm cleared, and just kept going on and on about, I'm cleared, yeah, it's not working, go on, Chris, go on, Chris. And it was just, you could tell Eubank was kind of just playing Benn like a fiddle in that face off and in the press conferences and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting stuff. I think the fight itself, I think it will be exciting once again. I think it will be explosive. Um, as far as sort of an early-ish prediction, for me, I'm at this point, just based on what happened last time out, I'm leaning towards Chris Eubank Jr. At this point in time, I'm leaning towards Chris Eubank Jr. to, to outbox Conor Benn, to do the weight better this time, and just to put on a bit of a better performance. And I'm expecting him to deal with Conor Benn on points once again. I just think he'll just manage the fight better, manage the pace better, and he'll outwit Conor Benn. I think there is, though, a kind of a danger here for Chris Eubank Jr. because the rehydration clause, I think, and all that stuff is still there. It's still in the contract and everything. And ironically, that's one of the best things that Chris Eubank Jr. said in the press conference, the face-off to Conor Benn, was that basically what's the effect of, if you're so confident, you're so sure of yourself, and you're going to knock me out, you really believe that, then you wouldn't put a rehydration clause in. And Conor Benn's like, yeah, we got to have something. We got to have the rehydration. But Eubank rightly mentioned Terence Crawford and said, listen, Terence Crawford didn't ask Canelo for no rehydration clause. Terence Crawford basically let Canelo do what was comfortable. And to be fair to to that situation, I suppose Terence Crawford won the A side, so he couldn't dictate anything anyway. But the point is, Terence Crawford was confident in himself to the point where he didn't care about the weight. He just knew he could beat Canelo, and Eubank was basically putting it to Conor Benn that, look, you think you're so great, you think you can knock me out, do this, do that. So what's with the rehydration clause? And it's a fair point. It's a fair point that if you're so confident, you won't be doing stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, for me, I think, yeah, Chris Eubank Jr. for me wins this again. And I think the only thing that makes me not 100% on this is that Conor Benn would have learned from the last fight. And obviously Conor Benn will be getting stronger, bigger and stronger. He'll be comfortable coming into it at a weight that suits him, not having to cut anything. And I suppose for Eubank Jr., the danger is that he could come into this fight and be completely dead at the weight. And I think the possibility of him being dead at the weight, I don't think he will be, but I think there's definitely a chance that he could be. And I think that's where you have to give Conor Benn a chance in this fight, because if Eubank is drained, if he's any worse than he was before, and obviously he's the older guy getting older, camps don't get easier as you get older, they'll get harder. You're putting your body through a lot of stress, a lot of strain, you're cutting the weight and all that. So I think those factors can come into play, and that's where Conor Benn does have a chance to beat Chris Eubank Jr. But as of right now, for me, I'm still staying with Chris Eubank Jr. again to win this rematch. Let me know what you think about this. What have you thought about the media, press conferences, the face-off, and who do you have winning this one? Let me know, and until next time, it's MKO Boxing, over and out.